so hard coming up with a new idea for the program. I just don't know. Just don't know. What am I going to do this time? Whoa! Didn't see you there. Well, welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. Glad to see you. Wasn't really expecting you. Better put this away before I cut myself. Well, get ready for another exciting show, I hope. And if you enjoy what you're seeing, don't forget to leave a comment and make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And don't forget to tell your friends. They all want to know about it. Come to Knife Chats with Tobias. It'll be a great one. Thanks for being here. Talk to you soon. Don't forget the thumbs up. Get ready for a big one. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. I came back. So did Kitty. She was just bugging me and required me to pick her up. She knows I'm off to the races. I got this pony I want to bet on. Freeloading Freddy in the first. I got my $2 all set. If he comes in, I'm going to be able to buy me a Randall. Always wanted to buy a Randall. And anybody want to see a cat butt? Why do cats always stick their butt in your face? I don't get it. Anyway, want to get that Randall, so I got to get out of here as quick as possible. But the reason I'm here, I cracked myself up. Anyway, the reason I'm here is because apparently some people had an issue with my Knife That Defines Me video. They didn't like the fact that at the end of the video I didn't pick a knife that defines me. And I guess that's a legitimate complaint. I should have picked a knife that defines me, even though I really can't think of one that defines me. But in this video, with any luck, I will be able to do that. My goal is at least to try and do that. And hopefully that will answer the questions and the complaints from the last video where I did not pick a knife that defines me. And hopefully I can do this quickly because I got to get to the races because I got a really hot tip. So let's get started here. Well, now, the fastest and easiest way for me to get this thing over with real quick is just to pull out my EDC and say, boom, here's my EDC. That's the knife that defines me. And I guess some people could do that. After all, if they're carrying it every day, shouldn't that be the knife that defines them? However, you know, some people out there in the knife community, they change their EDC more often than they change their socks. Like every day they got a new dang EDC out there that they're showing off. Look at this EDC, look at that EDC. It's all over the place. Every day it's like, and I say I'm schizophrenic. Well, they can't even make up what their mind is when it comes to an everyday carry knife. Something you carry every day. That's the way I always thought of it, at least, but not everybody thinks that way. But for me, it is a knife that I carry every day. The problem is, like so many other people in the knife community, I don't carry one knife every day. I carry 4 knives every day. So how do you say one knife defines you if you're carrying 4 knives? I mean, is it this one? This one's with me just about every day. And if it isn't, it's not far away. This is my Victorinox Explorer with add-on plus scales. So I got that handy dandy writing utensil in the handle. And also got the little handy dandy eyeglass thingy in the corkscrew. And the ever important magnifying glass so I can have a monocle. Everyone needs a monocle, especially if you're going to the races, because then you really look sophisticated with a monocle. Anyway, so I always have my Explorer with me. And then on my keychain, I've always got this with me, the Signature Classic. And the reason I carry that is because it's got another little writing utensil in there. And it's got them scissors on there, just like the Explorer does too, by the way. And of course, you've got that manicure tool going on there, because everyone needs to keep their, you know, you want to look good when you go to the races, so you need that nail file to get those nails all nice and neat. So I always carry my classic signature, so I know I look sophisticated. And then why, I don't know, but this little doohickey, I just fell in love with this about a year ago, and this has been with me ever since. And that's a new knife. You know, it's one of them new modern things. Of course, it's 25 years old for a new knife. Now it's more like 26, 27 years old. But anyway, I always got this one with me too. You know, this is the Spyderco Dragonfly. Don't leave home without it. You know, it's the only modern knife that I ever carry, and I only got about 8 modern knives, and I got a collection of close to 1,000 knives, but this one somehow made it into my pocket, and it just stays there for some reason. So we got that knife here, and then my ever popular 5-inch toothpick. If I ain't carrying this one, I'm carrying my 4-inch Northfield toothpick. So there you go. I mean, this little doohickey is with me all the time, and I brag about how useful this knife is. It started off as a bird and trout knife, but it makes a great steak knife, and you can cut just about anything with it. So I just love my 5-inch toothpick, and it's always in my pocket too. But there you have it. I got 4 knives that I'm carrying with me every day. So now how can I be defined by my everyday carry? I mean, I got 4 of them. How am I supposed to just pick one of them and say this is the one I like best? I don't want to hurt the other 3's feelings. They, you know, knives have feelings too. So I just can't do that. So then you're asking me, how am I supposed to pick a knife that defines me? Well, I've been given a thought, been given a lot of thought, and I'm still trying to think of it. But let me look at a few other things, and then I will, by the end of this video, give you an answer on the knife that defines me. But in the meantime, I'm going to move this camera and flip it around and show you with just my hands, and you don't have to look at this pretty face anymore. Okay? Hang in there. You're going to get a wild ride. Oh, dagnabbit, I got to get moving here because, getting hot. I'm going to take off my hat. Anyway, I got to get a move on here because I got 30 minutes to get to the tracks, and if I don't make it to the tracks, then I guess I could get to the OTB in 40, but oh man, I got to get there if I want to ever win that Randall. Anyway, one of these knives here define me. If you notice, none of them are my EDC, which is kind of strange. You think the EDC would define me, but let's go and say it's something else, and we'll look at these other knives instead, because, well, you already saw the EDCs, and if that was the knife that defined me, I could have already finished this video, and I could be going to the tracks. Oh, no, I gotta be as honest as I can here. I gotta stick to the plan and do this the right way. If worse comes to worse, I'll just have to take a break, and no, I'll get her done. I'll get her done. Get her done. Okay, one of these knives here defines me. I just don't know which one yet. Oh, wait a second. Hold on. One of these knives here define me. How did I leave those 2 out of frame? Anyway, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 knives here that have something that in there that kind of defines me. Now, as much as I love this to be the knife that defines me, I mean, it's got my initials in there. It's even got my name carved into it. And this is the knife that I carried while I was in the Army. So I think I could honestly say, let's back up a bit here. There you go. My Mark II Camillus fighting knife. That might have been the knife that pretty much defines my military career back when I was in the infantry. Yeah, I would say that this knife or this knife, the demo knife, or one other knife that wasn't even out, is German Army knife defined me in my military career. And actually, I would say that most likely this Victorinox, it isn't a Victorinox, it's actually made by CCM. See right there, CCM Roastfrei. This is the knife that defined me in the military. I would love it if it would have been this knife, but it wasn't. This is the knife that I carried the most. This is the one that had the most meaning to me while I was in the military. I was stationed in Bamberg, Germany. I traded knives with a German soldier to get this. I actually traded him a demo knife for it. So I would say, as a soldier, as an American soldier serving in Germany, this is the knife that defined me. The West German Army, the GAC, the German Army knife, that defined me in the military. Okay. Does it still define me today? It defines part of me today. This knife here, but so does this one. This one was given to me by my father for Christmas when I was about 16 years old, knowing I was going to go into the Army someday. So it definitely has a place in my life, and it has some definition in my character. And I always loved the demo knife, so that is something that also helps to define me. But this was the one that defines my military life. So we can move on from there. Let's scooter over a bit here. Got this knife here. This one here is my Woodsman. I talked a little bit about this one in the last video, and I actually did a video on this one when somebody asked, what knife are you going to grow old with? And this is the knife that I'm going to grow old with. So there is no doubt in my mind that this knife is part of my soul. This knife here has special meaning to me. It was given to me by my wife on a Christmas when we really didn't have a lot of money, and this knife has always been very special to me. So does it define me? Well, obviously you saw how many Swiss Army knives I have now. The fact that I'm still carrying a Swiss Army knife today, the fact that I carried this one for about 20 years before finally retiring it, you can definitely say it has to have some defining features of my character in it. So there you have it. This knife definitely defines at least a third of my life. So yeah, I could say that this knife is a knife that defines me. Let's move on to the old Marlin spike. There's just something about the Marlin spike that just speaks volumes of it. And my interest in it isn't so much that I'm a sailor. I'm not a sailor. I wish I were a sailor. You know, I don't have the money to be a sailor. But there's something about that, you know, and it's the freedom of being on the open sea and everything else. And when I look at the Marlin spike knife, that's what I think of: adventure and excitement and everything. And that's why they appeal to me. So that's why I've got Marlin spike knives in the collection, and so it is a part of me, but definitely not a defining part of me, other than, you know, I'm a dreamer, and I love to dream about adventure. And so you see the Marlin spike and you think adventure. And that goes right into this knife here too, except this is more like a historical adventure. And I am a history major, and I have you know, gone from being a student of history to somebody that just can't get enough about history. And one of the time periods that I study quite a bit is 19th century American history. Is specifically the Civil War, the time period leading up to the Civil War, and then the westward expansion after the Civil War. And this knife covers that period so well. And if I were to go into becoming a reenactor, like an Old West reenactor or a Civil War reenactor, this is the kind of knife that I would want to have in my pocket. It would be one of those, if, for instance, if I was a reenactor for the Civil War, I would want to be a Union spy working, you know, doing work in the South. That would be kind of cool. And this is the kind of knife that you would see that Union spy having with him. You know, he would have something like this folding dirk. That's the kind of thing a Union spy would have. And, you know, and then in his other pocket he'd have this, the old Philadelphia Deringer. You know, something like that, you know. And talk about a great companion piece, the folding dirk and a Derringer. You know, just, it speaks like, you know, Union spy. And it also speaks the other thing that I would think of doing, you know, that riverboat gambler, you know, just throw in the faro cards and you got yourself a riverboat gambler or a faro dealer out west. So, and these were still being used in the 1860s, 1870s, 1880s, even these old Philadelphia Derringers and these folding dirks. So I could see that as a, you know, something else that if I were, you know, if I would have been born back then, that's what I would have wanted to be doing, you know, faro dealer, Union spy, or maybe the town judge who also happened to run the saloon. He would also have something like that, and I could picture doing something like that. So in a past life, those are the knives that would be defining me. But now we're looking at present day and getting down to the nitty-gritty of real life and what would define me. And in theory, it could be any of these four knives, I think. The equal limb pen knife is really nice to me. I like this, and I like the simple elegance of it. And this is something that I could see throwing in my pocket and people seeing it and go, yeah, that's Toby's knife. Yeah, I could see that. I could be happy with that. Like the two blades on it. I've talked about equal limb pen knives quite a bit, but most people, when they watch my channel and stuff, these aren't the knives that they think about nearly as much as the other knives you're seeing here. Camp knife, toothpick. So it would be hard to say that this is really the knife that defines me. I would like it to, but and even deep inside me, I don't think the equal limb pen knife really defines me. I like them quite a bit though, and it's one of those things that maybe someday I could see this being the knife that defines me, but not today. So we got 3 left. Now I'm going to start with this one right over here. This is a Rough Rider scout knife. One of those old ones that either had a red jig bone scale or an amber jig bone scale. I popped off the red jig bone scales on this one and put on white smooth bone scales because I like white smooth bone knives. And they didn't make one, so I made one myself. So there is definitely a little bit of me in here. There's no doubt about that. Anyone who says otherwise would have to be lying, including me. And you know what it is, it's got that old-fashioned can opener, and I have said many a times I like that old-fashioned can opener because it's a really good box cutter, and I don't have much need for a can opener these days. And then you got the screwdriver, the long screwdriver, which I like, and you got a cap lifter, and I like the cap lifter. And then you got a nice punch over here, which I also like, and then the main blade. Well, you know what it is, it's a 4-blade scout knife. And no doubt about it, I got quite a few 4-blade scout knives in my collection, and I carried a 4-blade scout knife longer than I have carried a toothpick. So there's no doubt about it that if this knife doesn't define me, the only other knife that could define me would have to be a toothpick. And so it really comes down to, does this knife define me, or does one of these other 2 knives define me? And we'll get to that at the very, very end of this video. Now this one here, this is probably the first toothpick I picked up, the first large toothpick I picked up. It's in the Guardian Angel toothpick. I've showed this a couple times, and it's got that cracked ice look to it. I wish it were pearl, but it's cracked ice. It's got the cross on there. Picked it up because of that cross also. I'm a Christian. I'm actually Catholic and proud of my faith, so I had no problem with picking up a knife with a cross on it. And this is the knife that basically made me fall in love with the large toothpick. Didn't carry it for a while, but when I started carrying it, I really enjoyed it in the pocket, and I have since been picking up all sorts of other large toothpicks. So it's hard not to say that toothpicks do not define me, especially considering how much I talk about them. So if nothing else, my persona on YouTube definitely says the toothpick defines me. And now we got this other knife over here. Now this is a knife that my wife kind of pointed out. We were at like a state fair or something, and they were actually forging all sorts of stuff around, and somebody was selling knives, and my wife said, "Hey, person over there is selling some interesting knives. You want to go take a look at it?" And I said, "Okay, well, I'll go take a look. I don't know." I really wasn't expecting much, but I saw this thing sitting there, and it kind of jumped out at me. Really nice, white smooth bone, something I like. You see, it's got these two lines down here. If you notice, it looks very much like the Okapi, which I do like, but it's white smooth bone, and it doesn't have that funky external spring. It's got an actual back spring running through there. It is a lock on the spring, and when you open it up, you got a nice saber grind blade going on there. Typical toothpick kind of blade, you know, a true toothpick. Nice long clip, saber grind, really nice looking knife. And you got the pull on the back here to close it. It locks and it opens, and you know, and it locks really well. You can actually pinch open this thing too. Pinch the blade and flip it open. And if you notice, there is no nail nick in it. You just got to pinch it open. But you can actually pinch and flip. So, and then it's got a good lock going on there. But also, if you notice, this thing is totally unmarked. There is no provenance to it. So I don't know where it was made. The person claimed he made it in the USA. He said he had made it himself. I don't know if he made it from parts or what. You see, it's got brass liners going on there and a nice back spring, and the tolerance is great. Really nice. Not a lot of blade wobble or anything else going on with it. So a really cool knife, and very much a toothpick kind of knife. Nice brass pins going on with it too. But I have no idea where it was made. Don't know a whole lot about it. But when he showed it to me, I took it, checked it out, used it for a bunch. You know, I opened and closed it there with him, and finally just took his word for it that he made it, and it's USA made. And I have used it since, and been very pleased with it. And so I wonder if this is the knife that defines me. And I do know that it's one of these three. So now, what could it be? I'm saying it's one of these three, and all of them have something going for them. They're all, well, two of them are white smooth bone. One of them's a camp knife. One of them's my very first toothpick, and the knife that made me fall in love with toothpicks. And it also displays my Christian faith on there. So, could be any of these three knives, but you wanted me to pick one, and that's what I'm going to do. And some people are going to be disappointed, and some people are going to go, "I knew that was the knife he was going to pick. I just knew it." But do I do this in the next video, or do I do it now? Alright, I'm going to do it now. Okay, time to make a decision. The knife that best defines me. Here we go. On the count of three. 1, 2, 3. The Knife Chats bartender tool. Look, it even says Knife Chats on there. How could this not define me? There you have it, the knife that defines me. Not the knife you were expecting, I bet. After all, I said it was one of these three. Alright, I'm just joking. It is one of these three, and I think I'm going to have to go with this one here. I know a lot of people are probably thinking this one or this one, but I'm going with this one, and there's a couple reasons why. And first of all, I think this is the one that best fits my character. It's got flaws. It ain't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. You don't see it every day. It's not something that everyone's going to like. All that I'm fine with too. But the thing is it's also a very simple knife, and it's a very old pattern. It's been around for a while, and so all that kind of fits the way I feel. And also, it's another reason I'm picking this one is because this is a knife that my wife saw at an event, and she said, hey, there's some knives over there that I think you'd like. And so this is a knife that my wife saw and said, you know, she thought I'd like it. So, and I did. So there you have it. I think she might be a better judge of my character than I am, so I'm going to go with this knife. This being the knife that defines me. Now, obviously, I mentioned several other knives in the video, and I also said they define me, or at least parts of me, such as the German Army knife, which kind of talks about my military time. This knife, the knife that I said I would be growing old with, and will always be around there for me. So this is, and another knife that my wife got me. So there you go. There's another one that is not going to leave my sight and is definitely a part of me. And this is for the historian in me, and this one's for the dreamer in me. So there's quite a few knives here, and obviously these two, like I mentioned, this knife kind of began it all for where I went after, well, when I first came back to knife collecting. I thought I was going to be collecting military knives. I saw this one and everything changed, and so this is definitely a knife that changed the way I looked at knives, and suddenly a pattern that had been around for a long time suddenly became my favorite pattern. So definitely a big movement in my life, but at the same time I still hang on to the old scout knives that I also enjoyed as I was growing up. So all of these knives are definitely a part of me, but you asked me to choose one knife, and so this is the one I'm going with. I think it's a really nice looking knife. It's well made. It's very smooth. It lacks the pedigree, but at the same time it's functional. It gets the job done, and whatever I want of it, it has done for me. And so in that way, and that's kind of the way I look at myself too. I get the job done. I definitely have my own flaws out there, but I get done what is expected of me. And so that's why I decided to do a sequel to The Knife That Defines Me. People were hoping for me to pick one knife, and so I picked one knife. Will I pick a different knife next week? Very possible. But at this given time, this moment in my life, I'm going to say this is the knife that defines me, with its flaws, its lack of pedigree, but its ability to do what's expected of it. There you have it, the knife that defines me. And oh dear, I probably should have summed that up a little bit quicker, because I just missed the first race. There is no way in the world I'm going to be able to place my bet on. I just can't place the bet on Freeloading Freddy. And I just know he's going to win. And all that money, I won't have it for my Randall. So there you have it. Now I've got to find a new way to make money, but at least you know At least I answered that question. What knife defines me? Here you have it. Now to try and find another way to make a bunch of money real quick. Think, Toby. Think. Well, got this $2 bill here. Ain't got nothing to do with it now because I missed the first race. This pace, I ain't never going to win that Randall. But you know what? Anybody out there interested in a friendly game of cards? You know, I promise I'll take the old pistol and I'll put it to the side here, and I'll take the old knife and I'll put it away too. So what do you say? How about a friendly game of cards? Anybody okay with that? It's not like oh, how'd that get there? Honest, it'll be an honest game of cards. What do you say? Well, now if that wasn't the cat's meow, I don't know what else I can do. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please leave a comment. Even if you didn't like it, leave a comment. Give me that thumbs up, give me that thumbs down. Looking forward to it. And if you really enjoyed the show and want to know what's coming up next, go ahead and subscribe and ring that notification bell. Kitty says hi. Talk to you again soon.